Hello, everyone. Today we're speaking with a family law attorney, Flora Garcia of Woodman Garcia Sepulveda Family Law, with more than 30 years of experience, to discuss a question many people face when dealing with divorce, custody, or other family matters. Laura, welcome.
Good afternoon, Nancy. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Well, many people assume that a higher hourly rate means a higher legal bill. In your experience, how can hiring a lawyer with decades of experience actually end up saving a client money overall?
Well, I have close to 30 years of experience. That comes with a lot of um, knowing how to fill out forms faster. I know which forms would be needed for a certain motion. I know what laws or statutes or cases may be needed for that motion. I don't need to do research for everything that needs to be filed. Whereas if you hire a new attorney, someone that has just graduated or is new to the area of family law, they will charge you for that research. It's very rare that an issue is unique or new. So you don't have to all of the time pay for research. Most family law cases are not that complex unless they're extremely high asset cases. Even high asset cases are not that complex. You would need to hire some experts in conjunction with your work. But at the end of the day, if you hire an attorney that is, with my experience, that would charge a little bit more for their hourly rate, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to spend more time researching. They know where to go to get the forms. They know what cases need to be used in the declarations and in the motions, and they know what statutes to go directly to mention in the declarations and in the motions.
Gotcha. Okay. In your years of practicing family law, what are some of the most common mistakes people make early in a divorce or custody case that end up costing them significantly more money later?
The main thing that I see is that they become extremely emotional about the issue. The reason you hire an attorney is because the attorney is separated from the issue. And that's why you hire the attorney. The attorney is the expert, just like with anyone else. Let's say a mechanic or a doctor, they are the expert in that area, and they're giving you the advice based on their experience in the case law as to why you should accept a certain recommendation. Like in some cases, their mediators recommend certain orders or certain schedules for the children. So it makes sense to accept a recommendation from a mediator most of the time. There are reasons why you should put certain information in front right away so that the court has it. So the mistakes that I see is that people put the judge in the middle of a story instead of giving the court a the entire story instead of putting them in the middle. That's number one. Number two, the another big mistake is that people come to court with the documents that they want the court to see. The judge does not have time to review the documentation the day of the hearing. You have to understand that on the day of the hearing, the judge has 10 to 15 cases that the judge needs to decide within 3 hours. So the judge only has 10 to 15 minutes to give to each case. So if you want the judge to read and review what documents you have or evidence you have to file that with your motions. You have to file that with your declarations. And it needs to be provided to the other side. So mistake number three is thinking that you are going to do a gotcha to the other side and think that you're going to surprise the other side. No court, no judge is going to allow you to surprise the other side with evidence. You have to show the other side whatever evidence you want the court to see before the judge can review it and use it to make a decision. So those are the three things, main things that I see that people think that a judge can do or that they can do in any sort of case, custody, visitation, or a division of property case.
Interesting. Okay. One of the biggest drivers of legal costs is time. So, how does experience help you move a case more efficiently compared to someone who may be newer in your field?
Have learned through experience is not to personalize the case. That doesn't mean that I am just like a robot. No, I give you examples of what a court is going to decide in your situation. As I mentioned earlier, family law cases are not unique. The issues are not unique. Yes, everyone is going through their own personal situation, their own personal divorce. That is what you're going through. But the issues are not unique. So I can tell you, if you take this to trial, this is what more than likely a judge is going to decide. So if you go to trial, this is what it's going to cost you to take this issue or issues to trial. So my experience will tell you if you go this route, this is the fastest route. If you go this other route, this is the longest and more expensive route to go through. It's up to you. I give you the options and you get to decide. But I provide you with the options that you need to make and decisions you need to make from these options so that you know that if you make the decision based on the information I provide you, you're the one that controls the case and how long your case is going to take.
Gotcha. Okay. Many family law cases settle rather than going to trial. How does having decades of experience help you negotiate settlements that can avoid lengthy or expensive court battles?
What I do, and I am hired as a mediator, I have been hired quite a bit by a mediator, is I provide people the forms, be it in English or in Spanish, that are required to be exchanged by the parties. These forms are called preliminary declarations of disclosure, and they are required to be exchanged by the parties, where the parties disclose to each other the financial uh, debt and property that they have accumulated throughout the marriage. And I tell everyone, whether it's the petitioner or the respondent, that information needs to be disclosed in order for there to be a level playing field between the parties so that they know and are ready to exchange proposals for settlement. These are very important, the preliminary declarations of disclosure, so that the parties know and are aware of what has been accumulated during the marriage. Now, if one party is not willing to disclose the information, there are ways to try and get that information. But most people are willing to disclose the financial information and the debt. And then, so once we have that information, then we sit down and we send counter proposals to each other to try and settle most of the issues. And most people do settle most of the issues because they are given, and I provide them again, the information of what it would cost to go to trial on all of these issues and how long it takes. Each county, each judge that is assigned a case controls their trial calendar. And so there are some, like in San Mateo, there are certain judges that their trial calendars are 2 to 2.5 years out.
Wow.
So if you want to wait that long or longer, that's how long it's going to take, if you're lucky, for your divorce to be finalized. If you want to go to trial, you can control the outcome and how long it's going to take for you to be divorced if you both sit down, disclose all of your assets and debts, and look at the issues and decide how to divide those assets and debts. Now, let's assume you agree on almost everything but one issue. That one issue can go to trial, and if it's a 1 hour or a 2 hour, then it may not be a year or 2 years out. It may be maybe a couple of months because the judge may have an hour here or there available, and then you can settle that issue. So there are ways, based on my experience, that I can tell people you don't have to settle everything, but some issues are easier than others, and you settle those, reach an agreement, and the other ones you can leave them for the court to make a decision on.
Have there been situations where a client wants to fight for something in court, but you advise them not to because of the legal cost could exceed the benefit?
Yes, there have been there, and I tell them, okay, well, for example, I had a case over 3 years ago where my client, on principle, wanted to show that she had spent, I think it was $20,000 on a house, but she was only going to get five if we went to trial. That it was in Los Angeles. I just happened to have a case in Los Angeles. So with travel time and trial, she was going to be spending $30,000
Hmm.
on costs and all of that. So she was going to end up with maybe $5,000. So
Wow.
we sat down and looked at all of these costs, the cost and benefits of going to trial, and we settled. And she ended up in a much better position settling than going to trial.
Okay. Well, before we wrap up, I'd like to ask one final question because many people watching this may be facing one of the most difficult decisions of their lives, choosing the right lawyer.
Yeah.
If someone is watching this, deciding between hiring an experienced lawyer or going to a lower cost, less experienced option, what is the one thing you wish every client understood before making that decision?
You don't have to hire an attorney for the entirety of your case. I've been doing unbundled services from the beginning. I opened up my practice in 2005, and that has been my goal since the beginning to provide services to people from the beginning. So you don't have to hire me, for example, for the entirety of your divorce action. People hire me for one hearing, two hearings, or they hire me just to complete their forms, or they hire me just to give them advice on their case. So that's what you need to think about. Don't think about, oh my God, it's going to take me X amount of money to hire an attorney. Think about the amount of information you can get from an experienced attorney if you hire that attorney for a limited scope. Think about that. Think about that experience and the work and service you will get from an experienced attorney for that job, for lack of a better term, that you want to hire them for.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your insight. I think one of the biggest takeaways today is that when it comes to family law, the cheapest option up front isn't always the most cost effective in the long run. For anyone watching who may be facing a divorce, a custody dispute, or any other family matter, it's important to take the time to understand your options and speak with an experienced professional before making any major decisions. If you can find Flora Garcia at wgslawfirm.com. Thank you again for joining us, and thank you, Flora, for sharing your experience.
Thank you very much. See you in the next one.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.